That fool thinks he's a bear, sleeping behind the falls. He'll drown in his own bed.
The others in the store joined the laughter. Only Martha Craig looked uneasy, her gaze drifting toward the window. Outside the store, Daniel Reeves caught the tail of the joke. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He walked on through the settlement, his dog at his heels, eyes fixed on the gorge ahead. At the base of the waterfall, he paused, the roar of water filling his ears. He slipped behind the curtain, the cold spray soaking his coat, and vanished into darkness.
No one followed. They never did.
Inside, the cave was dry and deep. He struck flint, and soon had a fire crackling.
We'll be warm enough, won't we, boy?
Far away, the settlement huddled against the mountain cold, still laughing at the fool behind the water.
We're not the first to call this place home, boy.
He had known it from the first afternoon. He stepped behind the falls, old marks on the stone, told of others who had sheltered here long before.
They laughed because they didn't see what I saw.
A week later, the first snow fell over Carson's Gorge, silent and steady. Inside the cave, the damp clung to the walls, but Daniel only added another log to the fire.
Soon the cold will do what I can't. We just have to wait.
He gathered more wood, the dog bounding through the fresh powder. At night, the firelight glowed through the waterfall, a faint orange halo in the dark.
Let them laugh. The cold hasn't yet shown its teeth.
The waterfall roared on, unchanged, but the world around it was turning white, and the winter had only just begun. In the settlement, the cold deepened with each passing day. Frost crept under doors, and the wind found every gap in the cabin walls.
That fool Reeves will be freezing in his wet cave. Damp cold kills a man faster than dry.
Perhaps he knows something we don't. He's still alive, Thomas.
Stubbornness keeps him alive, not wisdom. You'll see.
Daniel had spent the day felling dead pines and stacking them against the cave wall, his axion steady, despite the cold.
The cold is coming, but this stone holds the earth's heat. We'll be ready.
That night, the fire blazed brighter than before, and the orange glow turned the waterfall into a lantern visible for miles.
Look at that. He's burning his whole woodpile in one night, fool.
Or maybe it's a beacon.
The cold snap was only the beginning. The real winter was still gathering strength beyond the ridges, and it would test every shelter in the gorge. The true cold arrived without warning, a brutal drop that turned the waterfall's spray into a shimmering mist of ice. Daniel woke to an unfamiliar silence. The relentless roar had softened to a whisper. He stepped to the cave mouth and pressed his palm against the frozen curtain. It was already thick as his fist.
No more damp, no more draft. Just still, warm air trapped inside the stone.
By midday, the waterfall had sealed completely, a wall of translucent ice that locked the cave away from the world. Inside, the air grew warm. The earth's heat, trapped by the ice, turned the cave into a sanctuary.
We've got our door, boy, better than any cabin wall.
The dog pressed its nose to the ice, confused by the solid barrier, but content in the newfound warmth.
Let the settlement shiver. This place was made for winter.
Outside, the wind howled across the gorge, but behind the frozen falls, the fire burned steady, and the man who had been laughed at was no longer cold. For 3 days, the cave remained a pocket of warmth, while the settlement froze harder. Each night, the frozen waterfall glowed like a lantern on the mountainside. On the 4th night, the dog abruptly stiffened. A low growl rumbled in its throat. Eyes fixed on the ice wall.
Something's out there. Someone's calling.
Eli Turner had been wandering for 2 days, his fingers black with frostbite, his mind slipping. Then he saw a faint orange glow through the storm.
A fire. Maybe a cabin. Please, God, let someone be there. Help. For the love of God, I am dying out here.
Daniel grabbed his axe, his jaw tight. The laughter of the settlement echoed in his memory.
They'd let me freeze if our positions were reversed. but that's not who I am.
He swung the axe at the ice, cracking a hole. Freezing air blasted in. Eli collapsed onto the stone, barely breathing. The frozen waterfall had become a beacon, and the man who lived behind it had just made a choice that would change everything. Daniel wrapped a wool blanket around Eli's shoulders and pushed a tin cup of hot broth into his trembling hands.
The blizzard swallowed everything. I was following the old trapper's trail. Then the world went white.
You are the first to find this place. Most are too busy laughing at the fool behind the water.
Across the gorge, the settlement groaned under the weight of the storm. Cabins disappeared into drifts, and the cold crept deeper.
The firewood won't last another day. We'll freeze before the storm breaks.
I can still see the glow from the waterfall. That man Reeves, he might have shelter to share.
I'd rather freeze than beg from a lunatic who lives in a wet cave.
A lunatic who's still alive while our fire dies. Think on that.
But Thomas only shook his head, his pride a harder wall than any ice. Deep in the cave, Eli recovered, but his tale of the storm's fury left a silence that even the fire couldn't chase away. The blizzard tightened its grip, a howling white beast that buried every trail and cabin under a crushing weight of snow.
The frost is inside the blankets now, Martha. Even my bones are splintering.
I can't feel my feet, Thomas. The shaking won't stop.
The fool's cave, but that glow, I see it every night. It never dies. That fire doesn't go out. It's been burning for days.
Then maybe it's warm. Maybe he's been right all along.
I mocked him, Martha. I called him names, and now...
Pride won't keep us alive. That man has a fire. We have to try.
Outside, the wind shrieked, and the snow piled higher. Time was running out. Thomas looked out at the distant orange halo, and for the first time he didn't see a fool's fire. He saw a door. Thomas wrapped his heaviest coat around Martha and pulled the door against the screaming wind, stepping into the white abyss. The snow swallowed their legs with each step. The wind carved at their faces like shattered glass, but the orange glow ahead held them upright.
Keep your eyes on the light, Martha. If we lose it, we're dead.
Just a little farther. Please, Lord, let it be warm.
The orange halo in the white chaos grew brighter, but the journey was a living nightmare. Each breath froze in their lungs. Inside the cave, Daniel paused. The ice wall no longer glowed steadily. Shadows moved and shifted beyond the thick curtain. He pressed his ear to the ice. Through the storm's wail, he caught muffled sounds, not just the wind, but voices.
More souls, drawn by the light. This cave is becoming a crossroads.
There's another one. Mr. Reeves, I can hear them shouting.
The voices were faint, beaten by the storm. But the man behind the frozen waterfall knew they were closing in, and that their arrival would test everything he believed. Two figures stumbled out of the white chaos and collapsed against the frozen waterfall. Thomas beat his fists against the ice.
Reeves, for pity's sake, open this door. We'll freeze out here.
Daniel's hand stopped midair. The voice cutting through the ice was one he knew too well. Thomas Craig, the loudest scoffer in the gorge.
The loudest laugh in the settlement. Now he's begging at my door.
Then a woman's cry pierced the storm. Martha, her voice thin and cracking with cold.
She's dying. Reeves, she can't take another hour.
The dog growled low, hackles raised. It remembered the voices that had mocked its master.
You are not going to let them die, are you?
They'd have let me, but I am not them. I never was.
The frozen wall stood between his past and his conscience, and on the other side, the pounding grew weaker. Daniel grabbed the axe and nodded at Eli. Without a word, he began to hack at the ice where the pounding had grown faint.
Help me clear this. We're not letting anyone die on my doorstep.
The ice cracked and gave way. Freezing air rushed in, and with it, Thomas and Martha tumbled onto the stone floor, coated in frost. Martha gasped at the warmth. Thomas, shivering violently, stared at the fire and the dry stone walls, as if he'd walked into a different world.
All that laughter, and here they are. The cave they mocked has saved them.
You are warm in here. How is this possible?
The ice seals in the earth's heat. It's been used for winters long before us.
Thomas's earlier mockery echoed in Daniel's mind, but he offered no accusation. He only pointed to the fire.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. We were wrong about you.
The cave now held 4 souls and a dog, the air thick with unspoken history. But outside, the storm still raged, and the ice door was already sealing again. The ice sealed tight behind them, and a tense silence filled the cave. Thomas sat apart, unable to meet Daniel's eyes.
We can't repay this, Mr. Reeves. That fire, it's life.
Repay it by staying quiet. The storm's not done.
How'd you know this place would work? The ice, the heat.
Should I tell them about the marks? Let them see. They laughed at something older than any of us.
He glanced toward the back of the cave, where shadows hid the oldest walls.
There are handprints back there, older than any settlement in this gorge. This cave has known winter for centuries.
Handprints? Someone lived here before us.
Daniel nodded, but didn't lead them to see. The knowledge was enough for now. The ice glowed, the fire crackled, and the cave's unspoken history waited like a promise in the dark. Daniel took a burning branch and led them to the furthest wall, where the light rarely touched. The torchlight fell upon stone that seemed alive, faded red handprints and symbols etched deep. Some prints were small, like a child's. Others splayed wide, pressing through time.
I've seen marks like these on the old trails, signposts. This cave was a winter camp for generations.
And we mocked him for following the wisdom of the ancients.
It's like they're still here, watching over us.
They knew what we forgot. The earth holds heat. It never froze them out.
The fire cast their shadows on the ancient hands, as if the past was reaching across the ages. The cave had a history older than any settlement, and for the first time, Daniel felt not alone. Outside, the storm screamed, but inside, the silence of the ancients promised winter would end. Days blurred together under the ice. The firewood pile shrank, and the dried meat grew thin, but the cave's warmth held steady.
My hands are working again. Let me do something. Fetch wood or patch that crack.
Daniel, I spoke from fear and stupidity. You were right, and I owe you more than an apology.
The cave doesn't care about apologies. It just needs to be understood.
Thank you for everything. We won't forget.
A new sound broke the silence. Drip, drip. A soft, steady tapping against stone.
The ice is thinning from our own heat. We're trapped, but the seal won't last forever.
What does that mean? Can we stay here?
We can still breathe, but the ice will melt faster than we can burn wood. We'll need to watch it.
The fortress of ice was becoming a clock, and no one knew how much time was left. Outside, the blizzard refused to relent. The ice wall groaned under the weight of the storm, a deep, resonant sound that filled the cave.
We need to seal the inner cave. Body heat and fire are all we have left.
Thomas grabbed the heaviest hide and hung it across the narrowest passage, his hands moving without complaint.
The fire won't go out. I'll stay awake to feed it.
Do you hear that? It sounds like the ice is cracking.
It's holding. The pressure is settling. Don't open any gaps.
The dog curled near the fire, its eyes tracking every sound. For the first time, the 4 of them moved like a single body. A sharp crack split the air, a jagged line racing up the ice wall. Everyone froze.
What was that? Is it breaking?
Steady. It's just the ice adjusting. Keep the fire banked and the seal tight.
A thin draft whistled through the crack, and the cave's temperature sank a few degrees. Daniel knelt, stuffing wet snow and hide into the fissure, until the air stilled. The group drew closer to the fire, but the cold had pricked their nerves raw.
You are letting in the cold every time you shift.
If you hadn't gotten lost, we'd have more warmth and less panic.
Stop this. Squabbling will not keep us alive.
The cave walls had absorbed worse, and the silence that fell was heavy with exhaustion.
This cave stood here long before us. It does not care for blame. We endure together.
The crack was sealed, the draft gone. Only the drip of melting ice marked the hours. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside, the fragile truce held the cold at bay a little longer. The wind's fury began to ease. The relentless howl softened into a distant moan. Then silence. Through the thick ice, a dull gray light appeared. The first sign of daylight in days. The blizzard had passed, but the ice door remained locked tight, a fortress of cold preserving them.
We're not dead. I can finally see light.
Don't waste your hope yet. We're still sealed in.
Daniel took his axe and struck the ice near the repaired crack. The blade bounced off, barely chipping the surface.
3 feet, maybe 4. We won't break through for days.
But we'll run out of food before then. What do we do?
We ration. We wait. This cave has held us this long.
The world outside was white and still, but inside the ice fortress, survival had only just begun. 3 more days. Then, with a swing of the axe, a slab of ice broke free, and sunlight poured into the cave. One by one, they crawled through the narrow opening into blinding brightness. The world was a sea of white.
Stay close. The snow will swallow anyone who wanders.
They trudged across the frozen gorge, a line of dark specks against the endless snow. At the edge of the settlement, a child playing in the snow froze, then ran shouting toward the cabins.
We made it. I never thought I'd see another chimney.
Faces appeared at windows. Then doors opened. The settlement stumbled out into the snow, staring.
Reeves' Cave. It saved our lives.
Daniel did not speak as the whispers spread. He only glanced back toward the frozen waterfall, knowing the silence would not last. The settlement had counted them among the dead. Now they returned, carrying the proof of what had been hidden behind the water. The settlement gathered, the weight of the blizzard still on their faces. Thomas Craig stepped forward.
You all know how we laughed at Reeves. We were certain his wet cave would be his grave. But that cave behind the frozen waterfall, it saved Martha and me, and this young man. There are handprints there, older than any of us. The ancients knew it as a winter refuge.
Daniel stood still, face unreadable. The old laughter now hung in the cold air like a curse.
We owe him our lives. What we gave him was scorn, and he gave us shelter.
A weary smile touched Daniel's lips. He needed no words. The truth was plain. The villagers murmured in amazement. The Fool's Cave had become a legend in an hour. Far away, the frozen waterfall still stood, its secret revealed, its purpose proven to the skeptics. And the dog wagged its tail, content in the quiet vindication of its master.
The blizzard had me blind and freezing. Then I saw a light, a glowing pillar in the white chaos. It was the frozen waterfall, lit from inside. That beacon led me to the only shelter for miles.
The crowd murmured. The frozen falls had been their joke. Now it was a lighthouse.
I owe you more than thanks, Mr. Reeves. You gave me back my breath.
Just stay alive. That's enough.
An elder offered timber and hands to build a proper door and walls, making it a permanent winter refuge. Daniel nodded, his eyes drifting to the waterfall, where the ice was already melting into shards.
They'll never laugh again. This place stood for centuries before us. It will stand for centuries more.
And as the sun climbed higher, the settlement buzzed with plans, and the once mocked man stood in its center, finally understood. The frozen waterfall thundered into life, and behind its curtain, the ancient sanctuary awaited the next winter. Spring came in a rush, and the frozen waterfall shattered into life. The cave entrance stood open, now fitted with a sturdy wooden door. built by grateful hands. Daniel and his dog stood on the bank, mist cooling their faces as the water thundered down. The dog lunged into the spray, snapping at the droplets, then shook itself dry beside Daniel.
You were right, Daniel. I won't forget it.
The cave was always right. I just listened.
A nod passed between them. Nothing more needed. The water's roar filled the silence. Daniel walked inside, leaving the door open to the spring air. The cave now had a proper home. Sunlight filtered through the waterfall, casting rainbows on the ancient handprints that still watched over them. Beyond the falls, the settlement prospered, its people now carrying the knowledge of the hidden refuge. And in the cave behind the water, the man who had been laughed at finally found his peace. Evening fell softly over the gorge, and inside the cave, the fire whispered against the stone. The dog slept, its breathing deep and steady, dream twitching beside the glowing coals.
They sat in this very spot. Those who came before felt this same warmth.
The ancient handprints stretched across the rock, patient and silent, a testimony older than words. Daniel stretched his hands toward the flames, the same gesture 1,000 winters had seen. The dog sighed in its sleep, a soft, contented sound that seemed to echo off the walls.
Not a fool's cave, a bridge across the years.
Outside, the waterfall hummed its eternal lullaby, muffled by the thick wooden door. Daniel leaned back, eyes half closed. The winter's weight finally lifted from his shoulders, and the cave, old and deep, held him like it had held all the others, with quiet, patient grace. Night settled over Carson's Gorge, and a full moon turned the waterfall into a ribbon of silver. Behind the silver curtain, a faint orange glow flickered, the fire of the man who had listened to the stone. The hidden refuge had saved lives that winter, its frozen door a lighthouse in the deadliest storm, and the old laughter died. A new sound took its place. Respect, earned by the cave and its keeper. Travelers passing through the gorge still speak of the frozen falls and the man who found warmth behind them. Some say they can still hear laughter in the roar of the water, not mockery, but a blessing. For those who listen, the ancient handprints still offer shelter, and the frozen falls still guard the secret. The hidden refuge remains, a bridge between past and future, waiting for the next storm. And behind the water, the fire never goes out. The laughter that once mocked has become the story that saves.